welcome to another episode of New Gameplay. Today I'm your host, Jeff Gork, joined today by Alex Stadnick.
Hello, friends.
How are you doing?
I am so good.
The most important part of the video is checking in to see how the other person is doing.
Correct.
All right, Alex, this time I can tell you what we're playing.
Ooh, that's a first.
We're playing Outriders, and more specifically, this is the first time we're checking out the fourth class that you can play as is the Technomancer.
Yes.
And you're seeing footage of that in action. And before we get too into it, I have to give a quick caveat here that the gameplay that we see recorded here is you, me, and Ben Reeves playing.
Ah, man. Ben
Reeves. We did a multiplayer session. We did it using some remote streaming technology, which we've done a fair bit of with our demos, you know, with our current reality being what it is. This is one of the sessions, I will be very clear, was a little laggier than what we have experienced before. So, like at the very beginning when I was playing this class, I tried doing some sniping, which is like a really effective way to play it, as far as I could tell.
Yes.
It was borderline unplayable.
Yeah, almost
just
definitely.
because of the lag, which is not, I don't think, the fault of the game necessarily, especially because we did a cover story on the game and visited the studios in Warsaw and played it, and the gunplay is precise, as you might expect from People Who Can Fly game. So anyway, if you see me missing any shots as Technomancer, we can blame it on lag, and this time it's actually true.
And not your skill level. If you go back and watch some of those earlier cuts, he was hitting every shot. So
absolutely. Yeah, and if I don't, it was because the controller is haunted sometimes.
Of course, yeah.
So anyway, Technomancer, we're playing as a 3 of the 4 classes in our squad. We had, I believe you were playing as a Devastator.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
Which is kind of a, let's back way out, okay?
Okay.
And Outriders is kind of like a shooter action RPG, a looter shooter.
Yeah.
Ugh, I hate that,
yeah,
that
I
term.
know. I cringed a little bit, but
Yeah, the classes are kind of based on archetypes that you might see in like a traditional fantasy RPG. So the Devastator, which is the class you're playing as, would be like the equivalent of like a tank, right? So you're kind of
correct.
beefier.
Yeah, he's more focused on taking damage, as every good tank is, but and one of the things that I've really liked about my time with this and what I've seen so far is how you heal is dependent on your class too. So for the Devastator, I had to be within 5 meters, 10 meters, whatever the range is, and if I got a kill within that space, I would heal up. So it was helpful for me to just go guns blazing, run in with a shotgun, and start tearing people up as close as I could.
Yes.
Which is different than something like your class or Ben's class, which requires a little bit more range, or I can't remember which one needs to like mark their enemies before they kill, something like that. Does that sound familiar?
That may be the Pyromancer,
Okay.
which we didn't play. The Trickster was what Ben Reeves played as.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of like a teleporting, time manipulating, like an assassin, I guess would be the closest parallel.
For
and then
sure.
the Technomancer is kind of like a similar to a Necromancer, except it's not summoning the dead. It's like reviving, bringing like these constructs of like turrets and things like that into the field based on the scrap that's on this planet, right? So it does a lot of like fair amount of like crowd control. It kind of has a lot of debilitating effects, damage over time, and that kind of thing. And the healing mechanic for the Technomancer is based on just sustained damage, right? So if you can hang back, have your turrets doing damage, you're like getting a steady drip of health replenishment, which is nice because it's a lot more dependable than, say, like a Devastator, where your health can kind of yo-yo depending on where people are, who's alive, who's not, and everything. So
yeah, I had plenty of moments where I was like, oh, I bit off more than I could chew, I'm gonna die, and then at the last second just getting pulled through and be like, oh, okay, I'm okay.
yeah.
I loved, and I'm curious about your experience with the Technomancer's like powers, that if you're looking at the bottom of the screen, the LB, RB.
Yeah.
Because I know for me, I absolutely loved like the bullet shield that he does, make you feel like Magneto, where you absorb everyone's bullets and then shoot them back. Like the earthquake ability was cool. How did the Technomancer's powers feel to you?
They felt great. Yeah, there's one where you kind of drop in this turret that does a salvo of like missiles that come down kind of in a straight line, which was really effective. I had another turret that I used. It kind of shot like a pulsing, like freezing effect that would slow enemies down.
Yeah.
and freeze them into ice, which you see is occasionally that blue effect. That's that salvo that I was just talking about.
Yeah.
And then I also initially had one that was like the closest. The game doesn't have grenades by default, right? Which is interesting for a shooter, but you can set up things based on your skill tree that have like an equivalent of a grenade. I had one that was at the beginning, which I don't think you're going to be able to see, where I would chuck one in there, or maybe that's it right there. I'm a liar. And it basically interrupts an attack. So if like a boss is about to do something, you can kind of interrupt that attack before it happens. I did later switch that out for a healing ability, which would heal me and then anyone that was within a close range. So it was more of a support role, which I kind of enjoy doing in games. So
yeah, definitely. And I think that when things got clicking for me in this playthrough was when we kind of coordinated our abilities and used them in concert together. Like I had there was I had an ability where I pulled an enemy, he became this like this thing that attracted all the other enemies, and then you laid out like that salvo turret and just blew them to pieces. And I was like, that's when in the back of my head was like, oh, okay, I see the potential.
One of the things that's really cool too, I think if you look at my skills that are on cooldown right now, you know, they're not like an instantaneous refresh, but I think that they do recharge at a quick enough cadence to where you're kind of encouraged to constantly use them, or you don't feel penalized if you use them in like, oh shoot, nobody got caught in that particular attack.
Yeah.
And with two other players, like you're saying, you can really set up some exciting like chains there's some nice synergies that happen between the characters.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus you get to turn a crank like that. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's exclusive gameplay right there, baby.
Big lever. Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely. I think there's plenty of games out there that maybe not penalize you for using your powers, but really like make you pick and choose. And I love the freeform ability to just use at will. And I think it's, with the build we played, I think that was really needed, because there was some times where I was like, we would not have gotten through this without us using like our abilities as much as we did. So you look very concerned about this corner here.
I think I really wanted to blow up the missiles or something. I don't know.
Yeah, see the interactivity of the world.
Exactly.
Were there any concerns that this demo brought up for you?
Honestly, the biggest concern, it was one that like we already touched on, was just like the lag of the demo.
Yeah.
Which was again based solely on the fact that we were streaming.
For sure.
It was also, there's some weirdness because we're in a squad, so like picking a mission and choosing what our objective was, it seemed like it bounced around a little bit because someone would change it on their on their waypoint. It seemed like that bounced around a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it was a lot of it too, is like we jumped into this mission, which I think is like 15 or so hours into it. So like we were able to allocate our skill points. It's like, oh, here's 30 skill points.
Yeah.
Or whatever. Go crazy.
Yep.
And like the skill tree, as we'll see in a little bit, is kind of huge. So it was a little overwhelming there. I think that they just wanted to kind of get us into the action and see some like mid to late game stuff.
For sure.
I appreciate it, but it did take a little bit to get our legs under us.
Yeah, and I want to, because I really, this game for me went from when you guys did the cover story, I was like, oh, okay, I may check it out, to actually playing it. I was like, oh, now I'm interested even more so, because I really enjoyed the combat even with the lag. But that being said, like, I want to echo what you said with the map. The map you need to be able to see where you were, because there was plenty of times where Reeves and I were like, okay, we're going this way, and I was like, wait, this way or this way? And it just wasn't clear, which is something that they can definitely fix beforehand. And you talked about earlier how we don't necessarily have grenades, but the enemies sure as hell do. And, and there just needs to be a little bit more balance of that, because I feel like we were bobbing and weaving grenades like at almost every turn. So yeah,
I will say I talked to the team after we had this demo, and while we were in that initial cover story demo, there's some like enemies will hit you with status effects like you're on fire or whatever, and like Leo, R.I.P. He was there with me, and like we would roll around like, because you're on fire, your instinct is to do that. It didn't really do anything. It was just kind of, you go through the animation. They did incorporate, based on our feedback, saying you should be able to roll around and put yourself out.
That's pretty cool.
You'll be glad to know that if you roll around, you will be able to put yourself out if you are on fire. They said that there's some other like similar things that you can do with the other effects too, but they didn't get into that. So like if you're hit with like a poison or something, you'll be able to
Roll
do
around
something to
yeah.
mitigate that damage, which
For
is
sure.
great.
Cool. Well, do you want to check out the skill tree?
I want nothing more.
Yeah.
Yeah, as you can see, there's a fair amount here. And one of the things I appreciate is you can reset your tree whenever you want to, which is great because I could see, especially when we were just jumping into it in mid-game, very easy to make mistakes and to go down a path where you're like, oh, I didn't want to do this. This is, I think, the first one that I went down, which was more of a sniper-based build, which just the reality of streaming just didn't end up working out for me very well. I could see that, like, the time that my shots did connect, I could see, like, oh, this is exactly what I want to be doing.
Yeah.
When I'm playing it, like, on a local machine, I think it's going to be fantastic. But ultimately, I think I reverted back to something that gave me a little more like damage over time and like debuffs and everything on enemies.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I loved this kind of skill tree, and I know this isn't the first time a game has done this, but I really loved. It feels like there's this free flow that they're really going for, where you know, as you can see, you can get far into a specific skill tree, but there's other benefits that you can gain from the other the other two sections that I really liked. I loved balancing out, because I think I'm a health guy when I play tanks and stuff like that, so I loved being able to buff the hell out of my health, but also have that freedom to maybe increase my melee or like do better cooldowns for my abilities. So I don't know, they're just doing a lot of little stuff in this game that I'm really interested in, really excited about in the final release. This
is the moment I realized too that I had used my skills in such a way that I did not have enough points to go into what that skill tree is building into. So I just hovered over it like what may have been if I like used my noggin a little better.
Yeah,
but,
I love it.
Oh well.
Yeah. Well, is that a good look?
I love it. I love it so much.
Good.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to spending some more time with the game and doing a better job.
Yeah, most definitely. And I think the highest compliment I can pay it is that even with our lag issues, it still felt punchy. When it worked really well, and like the enemies felt good. Like, I don't know, this game just clicked for me in a way that it hadn't before, and I'm so excited. This is now one that I'm really looking forward to this year.
Yeah. Yep, it's supposed to be this holiday.
Okay.
I think one of those, it's coming out on next gen, and it's a secret. We can't tell you when that's coming out.
Oh, yeah, because no one knows if it's actually coming out this year or not.
Yeah, okay, who cares, whatever. But anyway, yes, we'll get a release date eventually.
Yes, most definitely.
Until then, look forward to it.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for playing, and maybe we'll play again when the game comes out.
I hope so.
That'd be a fun stream.
Yes, it would be.
All right. Bye.
Wow, that person was really good at playing that game. Those other people were really good at talking about it, too. If you find yourself saying either of these things, subscribe to Game Informer on YouTube for new episodes of New Gameplay Today every week, covering the hottest new and upcoming releases.